I'm Coral. I am 68 years old.
My name is Kara. I am 43 years old.
I'm Amy. I am 46.
My name is Jamie. I'm 41.
Hi, I'm Erin. I'm 45 years old.
Hi, my name is Katie. I am 52 years old.
I'm Angela. I'm 45. I'm Nicole. I am 45.
Welcome back to Interwoven's third season, featuring conversations centered on care and on celebrating and supporting women in middle life. We're thrilled this season to exchange support with In Context Inc., Not Your Mother's digital marketing agency. From customized websites to SEO, they work with you at your pace, within your budget, and ensure that you feel seen and heard at all times. Visit incontextseo.com/interwoven to learn more. In today's episode, Theresa Kopac, Rebecca-Jankowski, and me, Jen Gilmour, talk about our favorite moments from the Interwoven podcast's third season, what we're looking forward to in season 4, and reflect as well on our own origin story and middle life experiences. A huge thank you to this month's featured musicians, Janet Ransdell and Susie Muehlbauer, for their contributions. Remember to hit subscribe so you can be the first to know about new episodes, and visit our website so that you can sign up for our newsletter, register for community events, and access all of our resources. Find us at interwoven.com. That's interwovxn.com.
Hi, I'm Theresa. I'm 46. I am the co-founder of Interwoven and the podcast producer.
Hi, I'm Rebecca. I am 45 and I am the other Interwoven co-founder and content creator.
Hey everybody, I'm Jen. I'm 45. I am one of the Interwoven podcast producers and editor. You hear my voice at the beginning and the end of each episode. It's great to be here with everybody today.
Here we are, right? Season 3. How is that feeling?
It's feeling really good. I was talking to Jenny about this before because we're already in the planning stages for season 4 and thinking about season 5. And I'm very excited, but I'm also season to season, I'm excited. And so it's been really amazing to hear season 3 to share these new stories with people because there were some amazing women.
There are organic common threads that come through with all the conversations, and it really feels somehow like all the participants in the season should know each other somehow. It's been amazing. I can't wait for season 4.
So wasn't that amazing how just organically some of the same topics kept coming up?
I also think it's really exciting that it feels as though there is the potential of everything that one can talk about in this phase of life. Yeah, it feels vast. While there are so many weavings of topics and ideas, every person's story is different. It feels exciting to have started that journey, and just that we get to continue these conversations and explore and see what things the women in our community want to be talking about and discussing.
Yeah, I love putting it in their hands. We don't give much guidance about what to talk about. It's pretty open. We feel the community.
It was amazing to me to listen to Jenna and Mindy from Wonder Makers, who I had never heard of their art project before. When I learned of their project, it just opened my world. I was like, this is incredible. And then listening to their story about their origin, the way they decided to move forward together actually reminded me a lot of how we got started with Interwoven, and feeling like there could be some way to make the world a little bit bigger.
Yeah, so that ties into a little backstory on us, how the three of us got into doing this together and became a team. That Rebecca and I started working on this. I think it's always been there for many, many years, but really started to take shape through the pandemic. And Jenny, being one of my oldest friends on this planet, who's my family, we stayed in touch through the world getting very quiet by having backyard fire discussions. And so I was sharing with you what Rebecca and I were working on. The topic of having a podcast element came up. You've been in the voiceover business for how many years?
Oh boy, 7? I was just getting a foothold when the pandemic happened, and also had to rearrange life and business and career aspirations about suddenly having a child home from school, a very different work availability. In the meantime, I had a lot of these skills that I had learned that seemed like, hey, this would be completely applicable.
It is amazing. And I I think that the timing of all of this, I know sometimes we joke starting a project like this on social media now, it feels like somehow the timing would have been better then. But in reality, I think that what is really interesting and beautiful is that we're having these conversations on the other side of, or we hope to be the other side of, the pandemic and coming off of those 2+ years and seeing how life has changed and how women's priorities maybe have shifted, or how even with Coral and Kara's conversation, not that this was a pandemic thing, but just even their transitions in their professional lives and how there are these phases of life and moving through things, whether it's entering a new stage of life, such as middle life, perimenopause, motherhood, or moving through a global pandemic. It's this process of reevaluating and assessing and tapping into all that is you. And so I think in a lot of ways, I think the timing is what it was supposed to be.
Yeah, I think if the timing would have happened beforehand, I never would have had the actual time to devote. Rebecca, I love how you just mentioned Coral and Kara's episode. One of the things of the whole season that really spoke to my heart was Coral's conversation about redefining success. That success is a dynamic, ever-changing, very personal, very internal thing that we all have choices about. For me, I think one thing the pandemic shone a light on was the fact that often, even without knowing it, I had held up success as some sort of external measuring tape that was really dictated by comparison and shoulds. The pandemic really shifted things inward again. Coral speaks so beautifully about how success is really something very personal that changes with us as we mature and grow. I also loved how she mentioned that success is not one thing. There's different types. There's success in parenting, and that could look very different than success in your career, instead of trying to make this one size fits all definition of success.
Yeah. And I loved Kara's line about moving towards happiness. Like how often it's like sometimes I just want things to be a certain way. And, that sort of inner perfectionist, if things don't align in exactly that way, which I find in life with a 5-year-old rarely does it in the way that I expect that it might. I loved that idea of moving towards happiness, and that in reality, you never maybe meet that exact destination, but it's a fluid thing, right? That is being in the moment. I think that's a lot of what middle life is. Anything else that comes with aging is a reassessment and becoming yourself, but also figuring out what does that really mean and what does that transition look like, which isn't always comfortable.
Yeah. And to your point earlier, Rebecca, when you were talking about how the pandemic held several lessons in it for us, and one of them was prioritizing our health and our commitment to our health, that we came out of that feeling like it was important for us to know our status and how to communicate that, because if we're not going to do it, no one else is out there to take command of our personal health. That's up to us. And so we've gotten a lot more communicative and a lot more curious.
When it comes to my own health, I wish I could say that I took that time to take all my supplements and eat the diet that I thought that I, should be, and have been meditating every day and doing yoga and exercising, because in reality, I know for me, my ways of coping with stress often are with food and beverage. And so I'm now sort of coming out of that too, and being in a space at 45 where I've been pretty lucky that my health has been pretty good. But my husband and I are even starting to kind of have conversations on how much longer can we sort of just ride that train, with the assumption that if we're not being more proactive about exercise and diet and things like that, that we're going to sort of feel okay. We're having a lot more conversations about maybe some of the not so good habits that we picked up during the pandemic. For me, sometimes exercise tends to be the first thing that falls to the back burner when I feel busy. And I know it's probably one of the most important things for me. We're also just sort of sitting with this aging process, knowing that if we are going to be proactive about our health, and if I want this transition through perimenopause and into menopause perimenopause to be as smooth as possible, I need to put in maybe more work now than I have been. There's real life, there's stress, and there's all of the things that life also brings. And so trying to find the balance in all of that.
That's at the heart of all of this too. And I will say, I had a different experience personally. I had COVID at the very beginning, then I went into long COVID. My kickoff during that was very different and taught me some very loud health lessons. That was followed by some middle life health fun where I learned that I have heart disease that runs in my family. I had some hemorrhagic cysts appear and land me in the ER. Through all of that, my anxiety level went up, which is not a happy place for anybody. So I had some serious coming to my own with those personal experiences and how to care for myself. So I had no choice. I had to prioritize that. And then I got a blue healer. That was my motivation to get out, because walking him is really more resistance training than it is a casual walk in the morning. I discovered that I needed that motivation because health-wise, those walks in nature every day with him are good for my mental health and my heart health, my overall physical health. I had to relook at what I was putting in my body for inflammation reasons with those cysts. I had my body speak very loudly. And Jenny, do you want to share anything?
One thing I definitely learned to appreciate for self-care is just the absolute need to be flexible, to take it one day at a time, because what I need one day might look different than what I need the next day. For me personally, I can go for periods of time and do very well with a routine. And then other times I begin to resent that routine. For me, I have to find a really interesting balance between routine and spontaneity. Like you said, Rebecca, there is no perfect. There's only any of us doing the best we can at any given moment. And for me, I have to remember to focus a lot on the abundance of tools I have, but I can't put any tools to good use if I just don't check in with myself. I think for me, the first step is just like checking in with myself. What do I need? Do I need some physical activity? Do I need extra sleep? Theresa, one thing I've always loved about you is your sense of humor. And I've known you since I was 8 years old. We met in 4th grade. You have a great way of being able to keep a sense of humor.
But Jenny, like you've been one of my guides with this, especially with my daughter starting school. And I go to you to sit down, calm down, and center. You know, you gave me halt. Are you hungry, angry, lonely, or tired?
We do the best we can. Some of the hardest things between parenting is just when your child needs something. And for me, realizing like I'm not physically up to it, going with the changes of perimenopause, I know really hit me hard during that first year of the pandemic. I had a lot of dramatic hormonal fluctuations. I had hemorrhagic bleeding take place that needed to be addressed that caused anemia, and the hormonal imbalance also launched me into spontaneous clinical depression, which was incredibly scary. I feel really grateful that maybe it was because of being more centered at home, I knew that I needed to reach out for help for that because it was very unusual. It was very much beyond the typical mood swings, however intense they may be. I feel grateful too that I had a doctor that could say this all goes together. It isn't one thing or the next. Your mental well-being, your spiritual well-being, your physical, it's all interconnected. So we need to figure out how to address all of those things. Having the courage to say yes to some things that in previous years where I've had some struggles, I wasn't ready to accept that type of help. But I did this time. It's hard when you can see physical issues leading to mental issues or spiritual issues start taking their toll on your most important and valued relationships. And that was really happening. First, I felt disconnected from my true self, and then feeling like I could not connect with my loved ones and that my very own body was outside of my control. It was such a relief to say yes to trying some suggestions from my doctor and honestly feeling better than I have in years, probably before becoming a parent, before childbirth. So that's been great. But there's been some other acceptance. Rebecca, I was thinking about what you said about when I'm busy or whatever, like exercise is the first thing to go. For sure. For sure, that's true. I was also thinking about how the aging process means that I need to try out some new things and not expect myself to go back to an exercise routine that worked for me when I was 30 or 35 or even 40, because sometimes now like a 5-mile walk, my body doesn't like that. but to all or nothing about some of those exercise things. Having that acceptance for me, enjoying what I'm doing is also really important. And knowing that when I check in with myself from day to day, that's going to be different and that's going to be okay. That's very different than having expectations for myself that my body can't uphold. That is not self-care. That's torture. All of the amazing guests we have on our podcast, everybody talks about learning reasonable expectations for yourself through the aging process and how that really can lead to joy. So I try to put joy as the expectation first instead of something to save for later. And that's a lot of difficulty for me because I'm a very serious person. So you both get into us. I can make anything really serious and think way too hard about it.
You're also one of the funniest people I know.
I was going to say, you don't always come across it as the most serious to me. I love all of that. And I am finding you are so right. I have a handful of things that came up as you were talking. I'm in the middle of a 45-year-old foot crisis. I'm on my feet all day long for work. I rarely sit down at home. I wear a pair of cowboy boots I got in Austin. I'm on my second pair of them. They are my ride or dies. I wear them all the time. They are my identity. They are my style. People will be like, well, why don't you just wear tennis shoes to work? No, my boots with my orthotics in them are my thing. I got new snow boots and made the mistake of going to the hill with my daughter with no socks on. And now I had a bit of a freak out because I was like, oh my God, what, my feet hurt all the time now. And I was like, I have to figure this out. So, I'm going to start cutting out gluten and trying some different things. And I'm going to go to my mom's diabetic pedicure person and I'm going to start looking for some I was like, all right, I'm going to start doing acupuncture on myself, all the things. The working out piece has made me realize like, oh, wow, okay, this is a part of my body that like I need to figure out how to work with here. What if this is the next 50 years for me, is that these are going to be my feet? So anyway, so I'm trying to develop a new relationship with my feet, which then affects my workouts. And it feels scary because I'm used to just being able to be on my feet all the time. So I'm trying to lean into giving them some love. And also it's okay to sit down sometimes. Also related to what you had said, Jenny, I love that your doctor was like, all of this is connected, because as you were talking about your symptoms in Chinese medicine, it all sort of falls under one pattern, right? So blood deficiency in Chinese medicine, which happens from heavy bleeding and can lead to anemia, absolutely can cause night sweats, sleep issues, depression. And so I love that your doctor was like, no, all of this is related. And there are things that you can do and to support your body and your mental health, your blood aspect. And so I loved that you have your person. And I know you've mentioned before that you feel really lucky in other conversations that you feel like you found the right doctor and someone that you feel like is a good person on your team to troubleshoot things as they come up.
What stood out to you from some of the episodes?
Besides the women pulling up very similar, lots of parallels. As I usually do, I'm sitting through the recording sessions with my camera off and my mic off and just emotionally invested in what these women are bringing into our space. And during Angie and Nicole, they got really raw and serious. I feel so honored what they brought to us. But I also had times where I was laughing out loud.
The Burger King telling. That was one of my all-time favorite, being a teen in the 90s at the Burger King in rural Iowa. Loved it.
And then also I loved Aaron and Katie. I love their origin story and how they found each other, which started with great humor, and then the support that they found in each other and where they leaned on each other to move through some of the most serious things life can throw at you, and became family.
I thought that Lori's was really fun too. She's got some good energy for sure. And I loved her tips about approaching things. I think sometimes when we head into meeting someone new, whether it be a friend or someone we are thinking about dating or having an intimate romantic relationship with, it's hard not to kind of put those expectations on it or feel like, oh, are they going to like me? But in reality, just going in kind of, as she said, with an open mind and just trying to create that space to get a sense of what the other person is like and how you connect and relate. I thought that was so important. Even meeting new parents on the playground for me, or watching my child starting to develop friendships at 5 and trying to figure out how that works, just having it be more of an open space to just sort of discover and let someone show you who they are, I love, which is what we're doing with this, right?
And then also with Amy and Jamie, they found each other and they just got in the business of lifting each other up. And I thought that was really beautiful. They met each other and then that just became like their priority.
Kind of rounds out what you both said. There were so many recurring themes in listening to the friendship stories and the origin stories about self-care. What a huge topic boundary setting is, making choices about, like you said about Amy and Jamie, they made a conscious choice to make a friendship based on positivity and lifting each other up and keeping energy high. It's such a good reminder to me too, to always take a look at my motives, just appreciate the people that are in my life for who they are, checking my own expectations. And there was so much about just total acceptance.
Yeah, I love that. I also feel like that's sort of for me how this project feels, or like starting something like this is just kind of like one foot in front of the other. Like, what's the next step? Because sometimes just in life, whether with anything, it can feel overwhelming and daunting. But if you kind of break it down into those smaller pieces or steps, it is so much easier and feels more doable.
And it's just about doing the next right thing and to know that that's going to have a giant ripple effect.
I love listening to you guys. I always feel like I get the cobwebs cleared out after I get time with you guys. We are in the planning phases for season 4 and season 5. I'm very excited about some of the women that are showing up. I can't wait to hear their conversations. And it's fun seeing the locations spread out too. I know that I personally have a few topics in mind that I'm excited to explore more with our community. You know, one of them, it's a big topic for women, and it's aging and our perception of beauty and how that changes. We've been with ourselves and our bodies our entire lives, and we go through these transitional phases where the changes become more obvious. That takes some psychological and emotional adjusting. So I look forward to creating a safe space for women to come in and talk about that.
Yeah, it's just exciting to get to share the conversations. That's one that we've talked about collectively quite often, right? Is that space of acceptance and wanting to be with the body that is yours, but also feeling like you are not your old self. And how do you sort of bridge that gap? And like you said, sort of put perspective on how all of that feels, trying to get back to, in one way, feeling like you want to look and be the person that you're used to being, but also accepting that it's changing. And it's a lot to unpack, right? And so I think that will be really fun to explore, and continuing to explore health topics, intimacy and sexuality. I think that there's so much richness to this phase of life and opportunity to take advantage of your wisdom and self-confidence in a new way.
I'm very excited, as you had mentioned, Theresa, to see how people are reaching out to us. Just can't wait to see who comes our way. These stories are just so phenomenal. And I love the reminder that it brings that every single person has this lens of experience to share. It's great to be able to listen, and excited for more.
I loved having some time with you today, you guys.
It was great.
I loved it.
I love you guys.
Love you too.
Love you. Bye.
Thanks for joining us today. We invite you to hit subscribe and to keep coming back each week for a new empowering conversation. We look forward to seeing you at our website, where you'll find our newsletter, event dates, and other amazing resources. Visit interwoven.com, that's interwovxn.com, to sign up today. This show's copyright is January of 2023. We want to thank In Context Inc., digital marketing agency, and the Sugar Maple Bar for their support this season, as well as our producers, Theresa Kopac, Rebecca-Jankowski, and Jen Gilmour. All original music was created and performed by Janet Ransdell and Susie Muehlbauer.